deepen our existing ties and to forge new areas of partnership for mutual benefit for the people of our two countries. This visit is the first visit by a president of the Federal Republic of Germany to Kenya since independence, and I believe it illustrates a desire by our two countries to scale up the scope of our development, cooperation across a multitude of sectors. I believe our respective delegations are going to work to create new partnerships that will generate solutions to challenges that we both face, and these include youth employment, the humanitarian crisis in Europe and Africa, security and terror threats, as well as the important subject of climate change. The backbone of our sustainable employment for the youth has to be anchored also in quality education in both competency and skill-based training. Indeed, during the President's visit, we will lay together the foundation stone of the Kenya-German TVET Institute initiative at the Kiambu Institute of Science and Technology, which is one of over 100 such TVET institutions in our country. Indeed, Kenya has achieved a 100% transition from primary to secondary level education, and we are grateful to our international partners, and Germany in particular, for their support in this endeavor. I also note with appreciation that the government of the Federal Republic of Germany has offered to support new programs through the Kenyan-German initiative to promote youth employment, and they have offered to share experiences and resources to help us transform the manufacturing and agricultural sectors, as well as a blue economy through technical and vocational education training. And subsequently, under this initiative, 3 centers of excellence have been established. Germany will co-finance with Kenya a phase 1 at a total cost of 26.4 million euros, while phase 2 will be co-financed to establish a further 4 other TVET centers at a total of 13 million euros. We also note that the relevant agreements and MOUs have been signed between our two countries, including financial and technical agreements, increased employment and industrial competence in Kenya, as envisioned by the strengthening of the education sector, calls for an increased investment in trade, manufacturing, and agriculture. Indeed, as I said earlier, they have over 100 German companies here in Kenya, and we believe that there exists still more scope for a deepening of our partnership. I noted also during our discussions that Germany is Kenya's 4th largest trading partner. We want to see the trade and investment between our two countries also increase. We have also discussed the challenges that Kenyans living in Germany, as well as Germans living in Kenya, are facing. We agreed to map out a cooperation framework, hopefully, that will ease the day-to-day operations of our citizens and the organizations that employ them and rely on their vital services. So finally, as I conclude, I take this opportunity to express my appreciation for the support that Kenya has received from the Federal Republic of Germany, and indeed it is my continued hope and aspiration that what we have enjoyed in the past through mutual support and development marks the embarkation point for stronger ties and opportunities for growth for our countries, our peoples, and our economies. I thank you, and Mr. President, I welcome you to make a few remarks as well. Thank you.
Ja, vielen Dank, Herr Präsident Kenyatta. Vielen Dank für Ihre freundlichen Worte zu Beginn. Ich freue mich, nach 5 Jahren wieder zurück in Nairobi in Kenia zu sein. Damals, vor 5 Jahren, kam ich als Außenminister, heute als Präsident meines Landes, und ich muss zugeben, ich habe selbst bei der Vorbereitung gelernt, dass dieses der erste Besuch eines deutschen Staatspräsidenten in Kenia ist, und das, obwohl Deutschland der erste Staat war, der Kenia 1963 anerkannt war. In einem Wort, dieser Besuch war überfällig.
Thank you, President Kenyatta. Thank you for your friendly words of welcome. I am delighted to be back to Nairobi, back to Kenya after 5 years of absence of mine. At the time I came 5 years ago, I came as Foreign Minister of my country. Now I'm back as the President of the Federal Republic of Germany. And as I was preparing for my visit to your country, I have to admit, I was amazed to see that this is indeed the first state visit of a German president to your country, although Germany was the first country to recognize Kenya when it became independent in 1963. Thus, I believe it is fair to say that this visit of mine has been long overdue.
Sie haben es gesagt, Herr Präsident, unsere beiden Länder sind auf vielfältige Art und Weise eng miteinander verbunden. Und als die größten Länder in ihren Regionen haben wir auch gemeinsame Interessen an der Stabilität der Regionen. Darüber hinausgehend, wir haben eben im Gespräch mit den Delegationen darüber gesprochen, auch weit über unsere eigenen Länder und eigenen Regionen hinaus, etwa im Kampf gegen den weltweiten Klimawandel.
You mentioned earlier, Mr. President, the fact that although both our countries are closely linked in numerous ways, then again we are the biggest countries in our respective regions, and thus we share common interest in maintaining the stability of the respective region. We also talked earlier today with the members of our delegation present, not only about issues affecting both our countries and the respective regions we represent, but we also spoke of areas where we share common interests, such as fighting the impact of climate change.
Deshalb darf ich Ihnen, Herr Präsident, im Namen der gesamten deutschen Delegation, die auch eine Business-Delegation enthält und viele Leute aus dem kulturellen und Sportbereich dabei sind, deshalb darf ich Ihnen ganz herzlich danken für die Einladung in Ihr schönes Land, das deutsche Touristen jedes Jahr zu Tausenden besuchen. Herzlichen Dank für den vertrauensvollen Austausch, den wir heute Morgen schon haben konnten und sicherlich im Verlaufe dieser Tage, die wir hier sind, weiter fortsetzen können.
And this is why I would like to thank you, Mr. President, on behalf of the members of my delegation. And my delegation actually also includes representatives of the German business community, also representatives of the sphere of culture and the sports. But I would like to thank you most warmly on behalf of my delegation for having invited us here to your beautiful country, a country that has attracted and continues to attract thousands of German tourists every year. Thank you for this very friendly exchange we've had this morning, and I look forward and am confident that we're going to continue to have such a friendly exchange in the course of the days we are going to spend here.
Herr Präsident, Sie haben auf die wirtschaftlichen Verbindungen zwischen unseren beiden Ländern hingewiesen. In der Tat, Kenia ist der wichtigste Wirtschaftspartner Deutschlands hier im ostafrikanischen Raum und mit einem derzeitigen Projektportfolio von ca. 500 Millionen Euro auch Schwerpunktpartnerland der deutschen entwicklungspolitischen Zusammenarbeit.
Mr. President, you pointed out in your introductory statement that the economic ties between both our countries are well developed, and you hinted at the importance of those ties. Indeed, Kenya is the most important economic partner country of Germany in the east of Africa, and we have a project portfolio of 500 million euros, which makes your country one of the priority countries of development cooperation of Germany.
Und in diesem Zusammenhang, Herr Präsident, haben Sie mir in dem Gespräch, das wir eben haben konnten, Ihre innenpolitischen Reformvorhaben vorgestellt, zu denen ganz prominent die Bekämpfung der Korruption gehört, aber auch der Ausbau professioneller Berufsausbildung, unter anderem für Jugendliche. Und wir haben darüber gesprochen, ob wir die bisherige Kooperation im Bereich der beruflichen Bildung, wir werden morgen gemeinsam ein Berufsbildungszentrum besuchen, ob wir darüber hinaus nicht auch im Bereich der sogenannten Fachhochschulausbildung, Applied Science, stärkere Zusammenarbeit finden können, ob deutsche Fachhochschulen nicht behilflich sein können bei der Entwicklung einer ähnlichen Ausbildungs- und akademischen Ausbildung, wie wir sie in Deutschland genießen.
And in this context, Mr. President, you said to me earlier in our bilateral exchange, you used the opportunity to present to me your reform projects, and you said that you were focusing very much on fighting corruption, and that you were also making the further development of professional training and education for, above all, the young people of your country, one of your major priorities. In that context, we discussed ways and means in which we can expand the already existing cooperation in the area of professional and vocational training. You pointed to that fact, are going to visit a technical vocational training center together tomorrow. And as I said, expand that cooperation also to include the area of what we in Germany call universities of applied sciences. That is something where perhaps German universities of applied sciences can bring their expertise and their experiences to bear and help you develop perhaps along the German lines of such a system, a similar system that fits the needs of your country.
Wir haben, Herr Präsident, Sie haben es angedeutet, in Ihren Anmerkungen auch über regionale Themen gesprochen, wie zum Beispiel Kenias Engagement im Kampf gegen internationalen Terrorismus, natürlich vornehmlich die Beteiligung Kenias bei AMISOM, wo Kenia einer der wichtigen Truppensteller ist. Und ich darf Ihnen auch hier bei dieser Gelegenheit und vor den Medien nochmal unsere große Wertschätzung überbringen, das Engagement, das Kenia hier zur Stabilisierung der nördlichen Nachbarregionen in Somalia unternimmt.
Mr. President, you indicated earlier that we also talked about regional issues, amongst them, for example, Kenya's commitment and engagement in the fight against international terrorism, the participation of Kenya in the efforts of AMISOM, Kenya being one of the most important troop contributors to AMISOM. And I would like to use this opportunity to once again express our acknowledgement and our respect, and I do this on purpose here in front of the representatives of the media, our respect for the commitment that your country has shown, trying to help to contribute to the stabilization of a northern neighbor of yours, and that is Somalia.
Und wir unterschätzen die Anstrengungen nicht, die Sie dort unternehmen, und wir wissen auch, dass der Kampf, den Sie bereit sind zu führen, unter zum Teil schweren Verlusten und auch immer wiederkehrenden Anschlagsserien von Al-Shabaab geführt werden muss, wie jüngst erst beim Jahreswechsel 2019 auf 2020.
We do in no way underestimate the effort that goes into your participation there to help stabilize the situation on the ground. And we do also acknowledge the importance of your readiness to engage in that fight there for stabilization. We know that it is a serious battle, that it is something that entails severe losses, losses of life, repeated attacks suffered by Al-Shabaab, just as the recent one on the turn of the year 2019 to 2020.
Wir haben eben im Delegationsgespräch auch über die weltweite Flüchtlingssituation gesprochen, und wir wissen natürlich auch, wie groß die Migrationsbewegungen innerhalb von Afrika sind. Ich will ausdrücklich hervorheben das Engagement, das Kenia zeigt, Flüchtlingen den Zugang zu Bildung zu ermöglichen, wichtige Schritte daraufhin, auch den Flüchtlingen eine Zukunftsperspektive hier zu bieten. Und ich habe dem Präsidenten und Delegation auch gedankt dafür, dass meine Delegation und ich im Verlauf unseres Besuchs in Kenia die Gelegenheit haben werden, uns einen eigenen Eindruck von der Lage der Flüchtlinge in Kakuma zu machen und dort Gelegenheit zu haben, mit den inländischen und ausländischen Helfern zu sprechen.
In the exchange that we had with the members of our delegations present, we also raised the issue of the situation of the refugees in the world. We are very much aware of the fact that there are enormous migratory movements across the African continent, and I would like to highlight the fact that Kenya has shown a great commitment and engagement when it comes to also allowing refugees to have access to education and further training. Important steps, I believe, if you want to provide a future for refugees, and I acknowledge the efforts that your country has undertaken in that regard. And I would like to thank the President and the members of his delegation for allowing and making it possible for me and the members of my delegation during my visit to your country also to visit the situation on the ground, so to speak, to go to one of those counties where the refugees are being integrated, the county of Kakuma, and to talk to aid personnel, people who assist in the integration process, domestic and international ones there.
Aber Notsituationen, das wissen wir, gibt es natürlich nicht nur in den Nachbarregionen, sondern auch in Kenia. Kenia war auch betroffen von Dürren und von starken Regenfällen. Das ist einer der Gründe dafür, dass die deutsche Bundesregierung nach wie vor in ihren Schwerpunktgebieten der Zusammenarbeit mit Kenia auf Ernährung und Landwirtschaft ausgerichtet ist. Aber wir wissen natürlich auch, dass die langfristige Arbeit, die dazu notwendig ist, ergänzt werden muss, um Mittel, die in Notsituationen zur Verfügung stehen müssen. Wir leisten unsere Beiträge zur FAO natürlich, um die Folgen zum Beispiel der Heuschreckenplage mindestens zu mildern. Und die deutsche Bundesregierung, das Außenministerium, hat zusätzlich zu den bisher geleisteten Mitteln gerade gestern beschlossen, noch 3 Millionen zusätzlich über die FAO zu zahlen.
But of course, we know that there are other emergencies that affect not only the neighboring countries of Kenya, but Kenya too is affected to quite some extent. You have gone through several serious droughts. You have suffered severe spells of heavy rainfall. And this is but one of the reasons why the German government continues to make food security and agriculture a continuing priority of German development cooperation. We know, of course, and are fully aware of the fact that we need to support the long-term efforts by granting additional emergency assistance whenever the need for it arises. As I said, we're making a contribution towards the FAO, the Food and Agriculture Organization. We are also contributing, helping to fight the severe impact of the locust infestation on the African continent, East Africa and in Kenya. And in addition to the funds already provided on the part of the German Foreign Ministry, we also announced today that the German Foreign Office will make available another 3 million euros in addition to what we already are making available, and we will make available those funds via the FAO.
Zum Schluss, Herr Präsident, Sie haben auf die langen, engen, traditionellen Beziehungen zwischen unseren beiden Ländern hingewiesen. Das ist richtig. Darauf können wir unsere weiteren Anstrengungen fußen lassen. Aber es gibt natürlich auch immer wieder Neues zu entdecken. Und wir schauen natürlich von Deutschland aus auch mit großem Interesse auf die vibrierende Start-up-Szene, die sich hier in Nairobi entwickelt hat. Nairobi gilt ja schon seit Jahren als so etwas wie das Silicon Savannah. Und eine ihrer Mitbegründerinnen, Protagonistinnen ist die junge kenianische Unternehmerin Juliana Rotich, die mit Blick auf den digitalen Fortschritt in Afrika tiefes gesellschaftliches Gespür, unternehmerisches Talent bewiesen hat. Und ihr ist deshalb letztes Jahr der Afrika-Preis der Deutschen Afrika-Stiftung verliehen worden.
And finally, Mr. President, you pointed to the long, close and traditional ties between both our countries and peoples. Yes, this is undeniably right. It is something that we can build on. But then again, I believe there's always something new for us to discover. And that's the Germans. And Germany look with great interest to the vibrant startup scene here in your country, in Nairobi. Not without reason has it been called for quite some years now Silicon Savannah. And there is just one example, to give you just one example of this, the young Kenyan entrepreneur Juliana Rotich, who not only has an antenna for progress and social changes in your country, she's also engaged in digital projects, and thus she was the recipient of last year's Africa Award granted by the Africa Foundation.
Also alles in allem, meine sehr verehrten Damen und Herren, meine Delegation und ich freuen uns auf 3 Tage mit spannenden Begegnungen, Gesprächen und sicherlich sehr vielfältigen Eindrücken, die wir aus Ihrem wunderschönen Land mit nach Hause, mit nach Deutschland zurücknehmen.
Well, all, in a nutshell, ladies and gentlemen, I and the members of my delegation very much look forward to these 3 days we are going to spend in your beautiful country. We look forward to fascinating encounters, interesting exchanges, and very diverse impressions. As I said, we will undoubtedly take home from your beautiful country.
Now, Your Excellencies, we will take questions from the press, 2 questions from the German press and 2 questions from the Kenyan press, and we'll begin with the German press, please. The first question.
My name is Ulrich Steinkohl, Deutsche Presseagentur. Präsident Kenyatta, ich habe eine Frage an Sie. Wünscht sich Ihr Land, wünschen Sie sich mehr deutsches Engagement, wirtschaftliches Engagement, mehr Engagement deutscher Unternehmen in Ihrem Land? Und wie kann das erreicht werden? Was haben Sie anzubieten? Und Herr Bundespräsident, die Frage auch an Sie. Wie sehen Sie diese Frage?
Mr. President, President Kenyatta, I would like to address a question to you. Does your country, do you personally would wish to see greater economic engagement and commitment on the part of Germany, on the part of German companies in your country? And if so, in what way would that or should that take place? And what would you have to offer? And of course, that very same question goes also to the German President, and we would appreciate his take on that.
Wonderful. Without doubt, Kenya is very keen to deepen her economic partnership with Germany. Germany being a very strong pillar within the European Union. So she becomes an important partner for us, for both trade and investment, not only between Kenya and Germany, but also between Kenya and the larger European Union. And we are very excited by the interest that German companies have shown. Accompanying the president is a number of private sector players who are here to explore the possibilities and the potential that exist. We ourselves are very keen to see ourselves deepen our partnership in manufacturing, in agriculture, as the president has mentioned, in the startup scene that is really taking strong root here in Kenya. And in fact, we were just mentioning today that as we were busy in our bilateral meeting, there is a new German company, Braun, that is also establishing itself today and officially launching its activities here in Kenya. So we will continue to provide an enabling environment, and we have been focusing ourselves. For the last 4 years, we have managed to strongly improve our doing business indicators. The World Bank at one stage 5 years ago ranked us at about number 130 in the world in terms of ease of doing business. Today, we are now ranked 53rd and moving in the right direction, trying to improve and to have a much, much better and more attractive environment for our people to do business. And this is why we're also focusing ourselves on the governance issues and other such bottlenecks that may be a hindrance towards investors who can come, create, establish their enterprises here in Kenya, and through that process also help us meaningfully engage our young people through the creation of meaningful jobs. So we are very keen to deepen our partnership between our two countries, and I look forward to this visit being one such example of how we can continue to deepen that partnership and encourage our two private sectors to cooperate much more as we move forward.
Deutsche Unternehmen, das wissen Sie, sind international sehr aktiv. Deshalb schauen sie mit mehr Interesse als noch vor Jahren auch auf den afrikanischen Markt. Wenn es Hindernisse gibt, so liegen die Hindernisse zum ersten nach meiner Erfahrung ganz häufig in der Unwissenheit. Häufig werden Hindernisse vermutet, die entweder so gar nicht mehr bestehen oder an denen mindestens gearbeitet wird. Deshalb, Herr Steinkohl, auf Ihre Frage hin würde ich eine allererste Antwort geben und sagen, Information über die Investitionsbedingungen, über die Rahmenbedingungen, auch politischen Rahmenbedingungen, ist wichtig. Zweitens, muss die besondere Kultur von deutschen Unternehmen gesehen werden, die vielleicht anders ist als die von anderen Investoren, die hier in Kenia tätig sind. Deutsche Investoren kommen in aller Regel nicht mit einem großen Staff, mit eigenen Arbeitern, sondern sie suchen ausgebildete Arbeit vor Ort. Und deshalb rechtfertigt und begründet sich darin auch das Engagement, das Deutschland zeigt bei der beruflichen Ausbildung. Das hilft einerseits deutschen Unternehmen, ausgebildete Arbeitskräfte vor Ort zu finden und andererseits auch Kenia, um ausgebildete Arbeit zur Verfügung zu haben, aus denen auch Selbstständigkeit neu entstehen kann. Drittens, eine Frage, die mich von deutschen Unternehmen natürlich auch auf dem Flug hierher begleitet hat, ist die Frage nach dem Stand der Korruption. Und hier ist entscheidend wichtig, dass der Präsident eben in seinen Anmerkungen auch nochmal kundgetan hat, dass dieses zu den Prioritäten der kenianischen politischen Führung gehört. Und ich glaube, auch hier liegt es im beiderseitigen Interesse, dass es im Kampf gegen die Korruption signifikante Fortschritte gibt.
As you may be aware, German companies are indeed very active when it comes to engaging and investing abroad. And that is why, and I also believe that that is one of the explanations why they have shown a greater interest in the African countries than they used to show only a couple of years ago. Now, as regards the possible impediments or barriers to trade that you, I believe, hinted at, I believe that this is very much to do with the lack of knowledge about the situation on the ground. Very often people expect impediments to investment activities that are no longer in existence or that are already a subject of efforts of the respective governments to be dealt with. And if I were to respond to this question here and now, I would say what they need to do is first and foremost to inform themselves, to acquire knowledge about the situation on the ground. That includes investment conditions, but also the political framework conditions for investment activity by foreign companies. And secondly, I would also advise them to bear in mind that German companies have a specific culture of their own, and that might slightly differ from the culture of other businesses that invest here in your country, in Kenya, that is. Because as a rule, German investors tend to not come here with a very large amount of staff or people, but they come here, intend to recruit the staff they need on the ground in situ. And that, I believe, is also an explanation why Germany is investing so much in TVET, in vocational technical education here in your country, because it is something that helps both sides. It helps the German companies find the kind of skilled labor they need in order to continue their investment activities here, and it is helpful to Kenya getting the kind of qualifications and skills that are required to generate further self-employment. And the third suggestion I would make to German companies, and I'm making that point because as I flew over here, some of the German entrepreneurs that are members of my delegation approached me and talked to me about this, is the level of corruption, of course, and that is something where I was pleased to hear that the President of Kenya has just indicated that that is one of the priority areas for the Kenyan political leadership. And I believe that this, again, is something that will be in the interest of both our countries, of both our investors, if we show significant progress in that regard.
Okay, a second question, please.
Birgit Schmeitzner, working with the public broadcaster ARD. A question for both of you, if I may. President Kenyatta, you mentioned climate change, and there are myriads of locusts at the moment over your country. What are your concerns as it comes to harvesting and nutrition of your people? And President Steinmeier, you mentioned the additional financial help Germany will provide. Would you tell us some more of your thoughts about the broader picture? Because locusts are connected to climate change, as I thought in the beginning, and climate change is mostly produced in richer countries, just like Germany. Thank you.
Well, indeed, Kenya is very concerned about the issues surrounding climate change, and we are concerned very much because we are victims of climate change. The impact of recurrent droughts, floods, and as a result also the infestation that we have seen of locusts that is largely associated with flooding, not so much in Kenya, but in Yemen and other countries that has now impacted ourselves. So I think for us, climate change is a reality, and we are looking to partner with everybody around this globe to understand that these are issues that affect mankind, and we must begin to address ourselves to these issues in a very consistent manner. We are very grateful, for example, for the support that the President just mentioned in helping us fight this locust infestation. It has been a serious problem. We have done everything that we can do. We strongly believe, though, that as a result of some of the mitigation that we have done, the damage to our harvest may not be as bad as it was predicted, but all the same we need to ensure that we continue to put more effort into this area, because it looks like this will be a recurring situation as we move into the future. So our concern now is to ensure that we are well prepared to address ourselves to the challenges that will keep arising out of these climatic changes that we are experiencing. I consistently say that the problem of climate change is not a problem for Africa, it's not a problem for the developing countries, it's a problem of the world. And we all just need to play our part and our role in ensuring that we do that which is necessary to protect this planet for future generations.
Ja, was die an mich gerichtete Frage angeht, wir lernen immer wieder, auch hier in Kenia, auch aus den Gesprächen, die wir eben hatten, das Weltklima ist kein mechanistisches System. Welche Änderungen genau, welche Folgen zeigen, ist nicht leicht voraussehbar, aber in der geringen Voraussehbarkeit liegt zum Beispiel das Problem hier in Kenia. Wir hören, dass es zu dieser Jahreszeit eigentlich üblicherweise keinen Regen gibt, in diesem Jahr eigentlich unerwartet viel Regen, was die Voraussehbarkeit für die Landwirtschaft in höherem Maße erschwert. Dass es einen Zusammenhang zwischen der Heuschreckenplage und der Klimaveränderung gibt, das liegt auf der Hand, ist von den Wissenschaftlern inzwischen auch bestätigt. Aber ich verstehe Ihre Frage ja auch so, dass Sie sagen, es nützt auch nichts mit Nothilfen. Es ist nicht ausreichend, sollte ich eher sagen, mit Nothilfen zur Verfügung zu stehen, sondern wenn man die Zusammenhänge ernst nimmt, dann kommt es eben darauf an, dass wir den Kampf gegen die Veränderungen des Weltklimas auch global gestalten. Und daran muss natürlich der reichere Norden seine Last und seine Verantwortung auf sich nehmen. Ob das in der Vergangenheit in genügendem Maße getan worden ist, darüber hat die Realität entschieden. Und insofern kann ich nur begrüßen, dass nicht nur Deutschland, sondern auch die Europäische Union mit der neuen Kommission verstärkte Anstrengungen unternimmt, um den europäischen Beitrag für den Schutz des Weltklimas im Kampf gegen die Veränderung auf sich zu nehmen.
As far as the part of the question that you addressed to me is concerned, you know, this is again something that we hear about again and again during our visit here in Kenya, and that is that the world climate, the global climate is not a mechanistic system. You know, what has been developing here is the consequence of developments that have taken place at an earlier point in time, and the problem that Kenya is confronted with these days is just one example of that. We have heard, as we prepared for this trip, that usually this is a time of the year where Kenya does not expect any heavy rainfall, nor any rain at all. But this year, the situation has turned out to be different. Heavy rainfall has unexpectedly arrived, and developments like these make it, of course, extremely difficult to predict the necessary steps that need to be taken in order to get a good harvest to prepare in the agricultural field that is. So I believe that the link between climate change and the present desert locust infestation is undeniable. The experts and the scientists have confirmed that there is such a link. But, you know, I also take your question to indicate that you believe that to provide emergency assistance is anything but enough. Of course, we have to grant emergency assistance in emergency situations, but if we take that connection, that link between changes that we have initiated and climate change and the developments in particular parts of the world seriously, then we have to act at a global level in order to fight and to tackle the impact of climate change. And of course, the richer part of the world, the north, the rich north, also is called upon to do its bit, to assume and face up to its responsibility and to shoulder its part of the burden. Now, whether we have done so to a sufficient degree or not, reality has already taken a decision on that. It is not only Germany now, it's not only the European Union, but it is all of them. The European Union with the new Commission, and I welcome that decision, have decided to seriously enhance their efforts at the European level to fight the impact of climate change.
Thank you. Now we'll take the opportunity from the Kenyan press. 2 questions.
Thank you. My name is Shisia Wasilwa. I work at Deutsche Welle Radio. My question goes to President Steinmeier. Apart from vocational training that your government is investing in Kenya, which other key areas are you keen on investing? 2, after the Brexit, Germany becomes the powerhouse of Europe. Are you going then to shift your policy towards or dealing with Kenya? Thank you.
Ich glaube, es ist eben deutlich geworden aus unseren beiden Anmerkungen, die wir zu Beginn gemacht haben, dass wir Fokuspunkte haben im Bereich der wirtschaftlichen und Entwicklungszusammenarbeit. Das sind insbesondere 2, die ich herausgehoben habe. Das eine ist Landwirtschaft und das andere ist berufliche Ausbildung. Aber es wäre falsch anzunehmen, dass sich das gesamte Engagement auf diese beiden Fokusbereiche beschränkt, sondern Sie haben eben aus den Worten von Präsident Kenyatta gehört, wir versuchen natürlich über die Bereiche der wirtschaftlichen Zusammenarbeit, der Entwicklungszusammenarbeit, deutsche Unternehmen zu interessieren, auch in Kenia zu investieren. Und das gelingt. Und die Tatsache, dass während wir hier sitzen, gerade ein Unternehmen seine Tätigkeit aufnimmt, ein deutsches Unternehmen in Nairobi seine Tätigkeit aufnimmt, das auch nicht nur handelt, sondern das hier vor Ort pharmazeutische Produkte produzieren wird, zeigt ja, dass es Fortschritte in diesem Bereich gibt. Und ich bin zum 2. Mal mit einer Business Delegation hier aus Deutschland. Wir werden gleich ein Roundtable mit den Businesspartnern aus Kenia haben. Und wir müssen das Wissen übereinander